Hi, everybody. This is Alessandro Del Vecchio from HardLine, and you're listening to Talk About Rock.
Okay, today's guest is an Italian musician and songwriter. He's also known for his work as the in-house producer for Frontiers Music, engineering and mastering hundreds of world-class Billboard chart-topping albums. He is currently the keyboard player for the reform band HardLine, and they're set to release their new album Shout on April 17th. Joining us now, let's welcome Alessandro Del Vecchio. Alessandro, thank you for joining us.
Hey, Rob. Thank you. Thank you for the great introduction.
Definitely. Much. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on here. So I've been reading through some of the information, and they're kind of describing the new album as kind of picking up where the '92 classic Double Eclipse left off. Would you say that kind of describes it well?
Well, I mean, Double Eclipse will always be, above us because it's such a great record. So I think it comes natural from a PR's perspective that HardLine is going back to Double Eclipse. We never went back to Double Eclipse for real. We just we honor our past. We know the legacy that we're carrying on, but we just write from an honest place, and we just try to sound legit, and hopefully we'll strike people and convey the emotions and what we want our fans to feel and our listeners to feel. And maybe this record has a harder edge that was lost after Double Eclipse, and we were able to just naturally get back to that, and maybe the comparison comes out naturally because of that.
Yeah, definitely. But I listened to the tracks and it definitely sounding great. So kind of to refresh people's memory a little bit here. So the band formed in 91 by brothers Johnny and Joey Gioli, originally included Neil Sean, Todd Jensen, and Dean Castronova. So this latest version of HardLine came together, I think, in 2011 and released the album Danger Zone, which I read came from lyrics you and music you had kind of written with Johnny in mind. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that kind of re-energized the whole project. I guess you gave that to the president of Frontiers, and they brought it to him, and he was into it at that point, and that kind of brings us to the current lineup. I wanted to chat a little bit about that. So obviously, you on keyboards, Johnny on vocals, and you have Anna Portalupi on bass here.
Yes,
can we talk a little bit about her? She's also an Italian musician as well.
Yeah, she's Italian now. She lives in the U.S., but she's American. She's an American citizen. But when in 2011, when I called her for HardLine, she was living in Italy. She's a great bass player. She's played with Daria for quite some time, and she has a lot of experience, and she's been in the band since we reformed. And actually Johnny, Anna, and I have been the stable musicians of the lineup in the last 15 years. And she's a great bass player, very solid, and that's she exactly has what we need as a band. Great groove, great sound, very solid, and great person to hang with. So it's perfect match.
Yeah, definitely. And you also added, I think you have Luca Princati. Is that, if I'm pronouncing that correctly? On guitars.
I love how we're being Italians, we're putting traps, under the journalists' feet, because pronouncing our name is difficult. It's Luca Princiotta is a great guitarist. He's played with Doro and plays Bailey Doro for like 17 years. plays Bailey, and he's played with everybody. Great guitarist. And the first time that I met him was when I was producing and recording with Yorlande the record Heavy Rock Radio 2. And we were looking for a guitarist for a few songs. And a mutual friend said, "What? Igor Janola was playing guitars on the record from Udo and Gothard, and Udo and Gothard." He said, "Why don't you call Luca for a few songs?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, we should do it." And Luca and I, we live, 1 hour away from each other, but we never played together. We knew each other, we never played together. So that was the first time that I met him, and I really liked to work with him. And then we did Sunstorm together. And at some point I was like, "You would be perfect for HardLine." And I asked him to join the band, and now we're making music together. So that's very cool.
Yeah, and last but not least, you have Marco De Selva on drums here, I believe.
Yeah,
What can you tell us about him?
Yeah, Marco is, they call him the Beast, and he's a beast. He's a great drummer. Like, if you see him live, we have to tame him with chains, behind the drum kit, because he's one of those drummers like Zoltan Chaney and, Kanata, those drummers that show off a lot. They do tricks, and Marco is one of those guys and plays great technically, but also he's a showman. So it's kind of cool what he brings to the band.
Yeah, I love what you guys got going on so far, definitely. So let's talk a little bit about your history. Obviously, been in the music industry more than 20 years, working with, tons of historical names, right? From Mr. Big, Blue Oyster Cult, Steve Lukather, Neil Sean, obviously, Arnell, Dean, the guys from Deep Purple, Glenn Hughes, Roger Glover, so many of these big artists. So one question I wanted to ask you, when working with these artists, do you go back and listen to their earlier releases to kind of get a feel for their sound, or do you just kind of just concentrate on the current project and move forward? How do you usually approach that, or is it always different?
Well, I don't need to go back to their records because I know them. I'm very fortunate because I can play with people that I know their history, and I know their records that I'm a fan of, and that gives me the possibility of just sitting down and concentrate on the actual music that we want to work. And like, for example, when I did the first tour with Glenn, he could throw me any song and I could play it, because I knew actually the Purple, Whitesnake, and Rainbow are the only bands that I know every song. At that time I knew every song on every record.
Mm-hmm.
And I could play any song from the repertoire, and I knew the different versions. I remember we did O2G with Glenn, and he hadn't done it live for years, and he was like, I would love to do O2G on this tour. And I said, let's try it. And I knew it because it's, so I and if I don't know, some of the records with some of the bands that I work with, I always want to be, I want to know deeply what they're good at, because my job is to make their strengths be stronger.
Right.
Their wow effects to be even bigger. My job is to make them better. It's and I think it's a natural skill that you develop by working with these people, because you just want to honor them, but you also want to make them relevant and legit, to their history, but still, make them shine. That's all that matters.
Yep, definitely. And you've produced for a couple different labels, obviously, not just Frontiers, Universal, BMG, JVC Victor, quite a few. So I kind of wanted to get your take on kind of what's going around currently. as everybody kind of has their views on it. Does the increasing use of AI in music, do you think, pose a threat to artists, or is this just another tool, maybe if used correctly? Because they're kind of saying now this was the kind of way it was when synthesizers came out, when drum machines came out. It's gonna ruin music. It's gonna change it. What's gonna happen with real live music? Or what are your thoughts around this new tool, which is really going all over the place?
Yeah, so I think we have to look at AI from two perspectives. One is the ethical, and one is the technical. The ethical side of things, it needs to be fixed, and I really do hope that Delgado entertainment law, they can, people like that are working to get it to Congress, they can really make it crystal clear that if it's the inspiration, if it's taken, if it's copied from something, that should be compensated. And that's the ethical side of things, which I hope it will be fixed soon, because otherwise it will be the death of, there won't be any music anymore.
Right.
The technical side of it is that it's just a tool, and if it's used correctly and ethically correct, it can be great. Honestly, I'm not afraid that musicians are going to lose their job, because it's very different from synthesizers and drum machines. And I know that everybody does that comparison, but we'll get to that. I'm not worried, because drum machines didn't kill great drummers.
Right.
And synthesizers didn't kill piano players. It's just the use of it that changes. If you use a drum machine because you're not able to play, and then you get to a live show, then you're not able to play. That doesn't change the game. And it doesn't change the game for a great drummer to be a great drummer and be in demand. And that's going to be the same with AI. And at some point, I hope that everybody will embrace it and use it correctly, and use it to improve, what we do, or just to make it better, get different inspiration from, and whatever. But the ethical side of it is just wrong. It's just wrong because nobody knows where this inspiration comes from, because we don't know what data has been collected, because there's not been, they're trying to make it under the fair use umbrella, but it's not fair use. Fair use is not, making millions out of an idea that somebody else had.
Right.
And had the guts and the knowledge and the skills and the courage to create. But, hopefully it will be fixed. I know that a lot of musicians don't like when I say that, but I'm a fan of AI. Not just in music, I'm just a fan of the fact that we created something that could do great things if used correctly. And hopefully, but that it's all up to us, give access to much more music if people know how to use it. And honestly, I'm not afraid of somebody getting a Suno subscription or a ChatGPT subscription that's going to take away, it's not going to take away anything from me, because I think still the human element will make a difference. Because if Suno gets in the hands of a musician, of an experienced musician, it's one thing, because you can direct, know how to direct the machine. If it gets in the hands of a prompt guy, there's not going to be direction. And it's like saying, I remember when the iPhone came out and it had the camera.
Right.
Everybody was like, oh, that's going to kill,
photography and
photographers. Yeah. Nobody's going to have a job anymore in photography. Look at the business of photography, still making millions, and still there are people thriving using, and they were able to use the technology and adapt it to what they were doing, but still use the human element. And I think it's basically the same thing. It's like when synthesizers or MIDI came into the business. I mean, that didn't take away the Chick Corea from becoming the best of the best, or freaking, queen to write great songs. It's just a tool that you use, and if you use it correctly, and you're able to put your human element into the thing, then why should you be worried of something that could only widen the possibilities? And honestly, when I see millions of songs uploaded and they're done with AI, I don't even feel the competition. I'm like, well, okay. I don't think a great photographer feels the competition from an Instagram person who likes to take pictures of whatever. I mean, you're gonna feel the competition with a person that you're saying in the same ranks as you. I feel the competition with other producers. Yes, I don't feel the competition with some guy from whatever bedroom writing prompts on Suno. And if he makes great music and he's happy with it, I'm happy too. There's still so much space, room, and air in the world for everybody to just be happy. If it makes you happy, makes you happy, and if it kills my job, I'm nobody to stop it. If and then it's the customers. If the customers like it, I raise my hands. I'm okay with it. It won't change a thing for me. I will still, strive to be a great songwriter that doesn't need that.
Yeah, I think you have it right though. It's a great tool, and I think a lot of it depends on, because people are scared of it right now. There's not a lot of controls around it, right?
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of laws in place, but there seems to be lots of different apps for people to try different things on, right? And make different. I mean, there's even been fake collaborations that have been posted to streaming services. That's not even real people, right? For these bands that they supposedly had a collaboration between another artist, and it was not real at all. So I think it was last week or the week before, iTunes announced they would start marking their music if it was artificially created, and I'm sure the other streaming services are going to follow suit. But I think you're right about the controls around it and the ethics.
Yeah, I mean it's just reckless now. I mean it's like it's the Wild West.
Right.
It's all. It's just getting out of control, and it's getting out of control because there's millions to make, and soon on all these companies, they're trying to cash in as much as they can.
Sure,
they can.
Definitely.
But I mean, it will be regulated hopefully soon. But I really believe in the work of some lawyers and some law entertainment companies that they are really pushing this, and they're also doing the job of getting to people to understand what fair use and ethical use of AI means. But then again, in the end, if the customer likes it, they like it. I mean, I always make the comparison of having a 5-star, a Michelin star restaurant, and you want to open a franchise of McDonald's. If you want to work, if you want to open a McDonald's, your target is not going to be the Michelin star customers. Right. And I don't want to be McDonald's. I want to be the elite. I want to be in the elite. I don't want to be in the just where everybody can be. And that's why I'm not afraid, because I believe in hard work. I don't believe in 20 seconds to get a song. And I think it's got a value. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I believe. It's the truth behind art. And if there's a way to get to better songs faster, easier, maybe, but if we can get to more music and bring more art to the world, and it's good, I'm not afraid. I'm again, with all the discussion going on, I'm embracing it, and I'm not afraid to say that. That doesn't mean that I do music with Suno, but I think I have a Suno account just because I want to know the technology and see
Right.
what it can do.
Right.
And it's scary. It's scary good.
Yeah, definitely. But I understand
And
what you're
it
saying, yeah,
needs
and how it would
yeah,
fit in.
yeah. I mean, it needs to be regulated, and now it's just there's no boundaries, and wherever there's no boundary, people will not use it correctly with everything in this world. So there needs to be law, and the original composers who created that, composers and performers, need to be protected because that's intellectual property like
Right.
anything else. And if somebody sold our rights to those companies and we were not aware of, we just simply should know. Simple as that. So I believe in the justice system because it's constitutionally wrong to steal, intellectual property from somebody else. So hopefully it will be fast and we will be able to see a fair use of that. And, this technology in a hopefully, I'm saying in a few years, because I don't think it's going to be sooner than that, but it's going to take time, but it's going to be regulated, or it's going to burst. The bubble will burst prior to that, and everybody will be like, okay, we won the war anyway. But we'll see.
Yeah, I guess time will definitely tell. Yeah, for sure. So one last thing I wanted to kind of get your take on is the markets kind of around the world as far as rock music. So in the U.S., we know it's not a big at the forefront now, but it was back in the day, and it seems to be kind of more on the rise in the U.S. But we do see around the world in different locations, the U.K. and different places over there, it's still very big and very popular. Do you think this can be brought back to the forefront again in the U.S. markets? Do you feel it's on the upswing, or do you have any thoughts around that?
Well, I can give you two examples that are igniting my hope for the future. One is Sleep Token and one is Ghost. If those bands can make it to number one and to arenas, I think there's still hope and there's a market to it. And obviously, if you look at what rock was, it will never be like that. There will never be another, Queen number one everywhere in the world because the times have changed, and the taste, the culture has changed, the backgrounds, the world has changed. But I think that with the world changing so fast now, I think there's a place for rock, and I mean even culturally to audiences that are not at our age. Stranger Things, the soundtrack, it's all classics. It goes from Master of Puppets, or Child in Time, or Separate Ways. I mean, that tells you a lot. That tells you that those kind of musical landscapes, those sounds, the way rock can convey emotions will never die. I think it will always find a way to thrive. But honestly, when I saw Sleep Token reach that level, I was like, what? Really?
Right.
But also, I mean, like, there's also another band that's more underground, Polyphia. I don't know if you know them. That's the kids playing instrumental crazy music. I didn't even know who they were, and they're playing sold out shows everywhere in the world. But they're playing for a younger generation. I mean, they're playing for 15, 20-year-old. And I think that, if obviously it's like our parents when Iron Maiden came out, and everybody was, oh,
what the heck is this? Right. That's not music.
And now if you compare Iron Maiden to Sleep Token, Iron Maiden it's night carols. It's so innocent. But back then when it came out, it was like, oh, the devil. But if it's, you have to, remember that the world evolves, but we somehow our taste was built on older stuff, and we will always go back to that. I All the friends I know, even if they have favorite records from nowadays, what in their view are classic records, they're unbeatable, and sometimes it's just sometimes shitty records, but they came out at the right time, and they meant something culturally, and they got people together at the same time. Everybody felt the same thing. Like if you listen to some stuff from the 60s and 70s, all played, not tight and out of tune and out of time, but who cared? But still it became relevant because it was the taste at the time was the taste. So I think it's I think there's hope, and and even if now I'm gonna sound like an old man, but I remember when Nickelback came out. A lot of people don't like Nickelback, but when they came out and they did Dark Horse, I was like, what? I mean, a newer band that's making a record like that, and Matt Lang is producing this, I'm gonna buy that. And so I think it's just a matter of having your ears and open, and your eyes to the world, and your taste be ready for change, because it will be different. If today Van Halen came out, people would probably wouldn't give them a chance.
Right.
So we have to, but maybe around there are some bands that could do that. And the world is always ready for great music. If they're ready for weird stuff like Sleep Token, they can be ready for anything that we can do in our genre.
Right.
Even if you don't have to be a fan of Sleep Token or Shine Down or Nickelback or Ghost to see that still it's in our world, and still it's moving. It's moving a lot of money, first of all, but also emotions in people. And if they can do it, I think anybody else potentially can do it.
Yeah, we definitely agree with you with that. Yeah, some great music coming out nowadays for sure. So let's take a quick look at what's going on with you guys. You got some show dates coming up for HardLine. Looks like you start April 17th in Hyde Park. Looks like that's your first show. Looks like you got quite a few shows lined up coming up too.
Yeah, we have almost 40 shows this year, so it's a lot of traveling, but we're also very excited because it's been a long time that we hadn't been on such an extensive tour, so it feels really, really good.
Yeah, excellent. I know a lot of folks are looking forward to seeing that. You guys can check out the dates for HardLine at hardlinerocks.com/tour dates. You can get all the dates on that. And we look forward to the new album, Shout, from HardLine, out in April. All right, so that wraps up this episode of Talking About Rock. Thank you to my guest today, Alessandro Del Vecchio, and to our listeners. We hope you're doing your part in keeping the torch alive and supporting live music wherever you are. Alessandro, Thank you again.
Thank you, Rob, for having me, and thank you to your listeners, and and I hope you're gonna like the record. We put everything that we had, but I'm sure you're gonna love it.